Welcome into Coach Greg Sports. This is the MLB DFS Core Pick video, Core Pick live stream for today. It's Monday, it's Labor Day. It is September 4th. It's 7-game main slate. We got a little bit earlier start time today due to the holiday. So it's going to be a pretty interesting slate overall. If you see up on the screen, it looks like my webcam's still not working. Was trying to mess around with that. So a couple minutes late due to that. I had to restart the computer and everything else like that. So I do apologize for that. But since it's Monday, we haven't had a video since Thursday. We won't be doing a recap today. But we'll go over to RotoWire, talk about the potential weather for today, go over to FanDuel, talk about my core 5 picks for today. It's going to be 1 pitcher, 4 hitters, combination of past performances plus recent performances for these hitters as well, and the pitcher. But then last but not least, we'll get over to the YouTube community tab and talk about my top GPP teams to stack for today overall. So it's going to be pretty interesting. Like I said, 7-game main slate, earlier start time, so definitely be sure to look out for all of that. But we're going to get started with the weather report for today. Does not look like anything major at this point in time. We do not see anything above a 2% chance of rain today. So I'm going to look like a pretty good slate. If anything does majorly change with that throughout the day, we'll try to leave it down in the comments, as well as those starting lineups as they do come out throughout the day. But with that being said, we're going to stop sharing that screen. We'll get over to FanDuel, talk about the core 5 picks that I do have for today overall. So once again, it's going to be 1 pitcher, 4 hitters. We'll see whether or not my lineup saves since I had to restart the computer. It looks like it stayed in here. So that is a good sign instead of having to go plucking back through. But we're going to start off at the pitcher position with Jose Barrios going against the Oakland A's today. Pretty good history versus them in the past. And earlier this season when he faced them, he had 46 points. Last year when he faced them, he had 37 points. So it looks like a pretty strong matchup for him overall. Like I said, got pretty decent history versus them. If you look at kind of what he's done on the season, been a little bit up and down. But the good performances have been really good. $10,100 today, averaging over 30 fantasy points per game, 3.7 ERA, the 9 wins. So as long as we get a win and a quality start out of him today, probably going to look like a pretty solid option altogether. If you want to go up to Merrill Kelly, who's slightly above him in terms of price tag, has some pretty good history versus Colorado, so wouldn't mind that as well. But he's been banged up a little bit as of late. So like I said, with Barrios, you just kind of see it. The season has kind of really just been up and down. So hopefully we get that good start out of him today. Then we're going to move down to the hitters. So first off, we have Yandy Diaz at first base. You can play him at third base as well. $3,700. He's 5 for 7 versus Brian Bayo, who's the projected starting pitcher tonight for, or I should say today for the Boston Red Sox. $3,700, averaging just under 12 fantasy points per game. 322 average, 18 home runs, 67 RBI. So really strong, solid season for Yandy Diaz this year. Heading for a little bit more power than he has in past seasons. But when you look at what he's done lately, it is had at least 1 hit in 11 out of his last 13 games, including 7 multi-hit games during that stretch. So going to have some pretty good success in the past versus Brian Bayo. Has some pretty good recent history. So definitely do like him tonight. You can also play him at third base if you're not playing him at first base. Then we're going to stop sharing him. We'll get over to our shortstop today, which is going to be J.P. Crawford. He's up to $3,100 at this point in time. One of the higher price tags that you see for him, but he's had a pretty solid season altogether, averaging almost 10.5 fantasy points per game, 270 average, 14 home runs, 46 RBIs. Goes against the Cincinnati Reds today. The projected primary pitcher is going to be Michael Marriott for the Reds today. 34-year-old, hasn't had too much success in the major league level, hasn't really pitched to the majors for some time. So it looks like a pretty favorable matchup for the Seattle Mariners team today. That starts with J.B. Crawford probably leading off for them once again. And if you look at kind of what he's done lately, he's got at least 1 hit in 5 out of his last 6 games, 2 multi-hit games during that stretch, and 2 home runs during that stretch as well. So some pretty good upside as of late. And then after him, we're going with his teammate, probably batting behind him in the order, and Julio Rodriguez. Really good, strong stretch for him as of late. Another guy that doesn't have history versus Michael Marriott, who is that projected primary pitcher for the Cincinnati Reds today. 285 average, 24 home runs, 88 RBIs, averaging almost 13.5 fantasy points per game. He's down to $4,300 at this point in time. And I have to say down because, last week we've seen slates where he was at $4,500, $4,600. So really strong stretch for him as of late. He's got at least 1 hit in 15 out of his last 16 games. That 15-game hitting streak did ultimately end up not panning out yesterday, but really strong upside for him as of late. And he's got 9 multi-hit games during that 16-game stretch as well. So really strong upside. And, even if you look at that stretch too, there's 3, 4, 5, 5 home runs during that stretch as well. So Really like him today. It looks like a really good matchup for this Mariners team. So it really starts with those two guys at the top of the lineup. And then last but not least, we got a guy that I put in here a lot of times when they're facing left-handed pitching, and he has pretty good history versus them. It's Austin Slater. He's $2,200, only averaging 5.5 fantasy points essentially. But, he's a guy that does come in platoons. He doesn't always play and get as many at-bats during the games, but projected to hit leadoff today going against Justin Steele. Steele's had a really good season for the Cubs, but, Austin Slater's still 3 for 6 versus him. If you look at what he's done recently, 5 out of his last 6 starts, he has at least 1 hit. And 3 of those games have been multi-hit games. $2,200 looks like an ultimate paydown spot today. Definitely do like the upside that he could present. Earlier in his career, did run a little bit more. Kind of had those hamstring injuries this year, so he's not running quite as much as he did when he was a little bit younger player. But do like him as kind of our value play for the day overall. And then if you're looking at for another one, the one in my cheat sheet was Dominic Canzoni, who is $2,200 as well for that Seattle Mariners team. Probably heading towards the bottom of their lineup, but still really do like that matchup today against the Cincinnati Reds. But with that being said, if you would ultimately go with the 5 players that I did have listed here, you have $11,600 remaining, $2,900 per player, so a little bit of room and flexibility. Probably could pay up for one other spot, and then you really have to pay down at some other spots. Or if you want to take a little bit more balanced build, that's definitely something that is viable on tonight's slate as well. But with that being said, we're going to stop sharing that screen. We'll get over to the YouTube community tab and talk about my top GPP stacks for today. This is on my cheat sheet. My cheat sheet is 100% free. It is up on Facebook. It's up on Twitter. It's up on the YouTube community tab. If you're interested in more in-depth notes, also be sure to check out the Patreon for hitter versus pitcher matchups, whether or not I would consider pitchers in play, a risky play, or a straight-up avoid on any given slate Monday through Friday. And then some other potential top teams to stack on some of the larger slates throughout the week as well. But with that being said, the top GPP teams that I do have to stack today, I have the Toronto Blue Jays going against Ken Waldichuk. Waldichuk did not pitch well versus them earlier this season. Not a long list of history here, but if you want to go after some of the Blue Jays hitters, it does make some sense, whether it's Vladimir Guerrero, whether it is George Springer, a couple different guys in there. Ernie Clement's actually been doing all right as kind of a paydown option at second base, shortstop if you want to go that direction if you're looking for a pay down in either one of those positions. A lot of different ways that we can approach it, but definitely do like them today. Then we have the Arizona Diamondbacks going against Peter Lambert of the Colorado Rockies. Lambert, ERA is right around 5 at this point in time. Not a long list of history of success at the MLB level. Games in Arizona, so you don't get the course field effect, but these hitters I still like quite a bit today. Not a long list of history versus Lambert. Christian Walker does have a home run. A couple other guys have a few at-bats for some, but nothing too crazy at this point in time. And then we get over to that Seattle Mariners team, which I do like quite a bit today. Michael Marriott is the projected primary pitcher for the Cincinnati Reds today. Like I said, 34 years old at this point in time. Doesn't have a long list of history at the major league level. Hasn't really pitched at the major league level in quite some time. So should look like a pretty favorable matchup for them. And then last but not least, kind of threw the Astros on there as a 4th team. They got pretty decent history versus Andrew Heaney in the past. So do like the upside that could be there. He's kind of one of those hit or miss pitchers too. Could come out, pitch really well, could give up some home runs, some fly balls, and everything else like that does ultimately end up giving up some runs. But with that being said, that's kind of what I do have for today. Pretty short, sweet, and to the point video for Labor Day. Hopefully you guys all enjoy the day, whether you're working, which is probably not the best case since it is Labor Day, and that's kind of the point of it, to be off. But hopefully you guys all enjoy that day overall. Hopefully you found this video quite informative. And with that being said, if you have any other additional questions related to MLB DFS, be sure to drop them down in the comments below. Definitely interested in hearing what you have to say, especially in terms of your favorite play of the day, whether it's someone for my core 5 picks, whether it's someone for my top GPP stacks, or whether it's a completely different player you guys think I'm definitely interested in hearing who that is for you today. And then last but not least, we'll be updating any weather reports and the starting lineups as the day moves along. So definitely be on the look. Yeah, so definitely be on the lookout for that, especially as we do get closer to lock. But with that being said, if you are brand new to my channel, checking it out for the very first time, or have yet to subscribe, please consider doing so. Definitely would appreciate it. Helps to build the community that we're trying to build here at Coach Craig Sports, which is one that's truly for you, the viewers, helping you with your DFS. Right now, we got MLB DFS Monday through Friday. We got CFL DFS once a week. And now we got NFL DFS right around the corner, so we'll be doing some content for that as well. But with that being said, that's all that I truly have at this point in time. Definitely do appreciate each and every one of you checking this video out. Definitely means a lot to me. I hope that each and every one of you have a great rest of your day, a great Labor Day, and some pretty good luck in MLB DFS this afternoon.